There are some families that stay with you forever. I want to tell you about one of these families. To change the details to protect their privacy, but every lesson that I'm sharing is real. When I first met them, they had already successfully raised 2 children into adulthood, and they still had 2 teenagers at home. They were not inexperienced parents. They weathered the ups and downs of raising kids. They knew what it was like to have teens and teen behavior. They had confidence, and they knew how to parent. They made a decision that would change their family forever. They said yes to a sibling group from foster care. There was a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what incredible courage. I also remember thinking that their lives were about to change in ways that they probably couldn't even imagine. And actually, when they called me, they already were experiencing so many things. These children themselves had experienced abuse, neglect, abandonment, instability, and more loss than any child should ever have to endure. There were concerns about prenatal drug exposure, developmental delays with a couple of the kids, and significant emotional and behavior challenges, including some inappropriate behavior between the oldest child and possibly the younger children. So they were not kids that just needed some love. They needed healing. And healing is messy. I started working with this family as soon as the children came home. So they contacted me. The kids had only been in the home about a week. And looking back, I am so glad that they reached out immediately. Sometimes parents tell me that they want to wait and see if they can settle things down. And it wasn't like this mom didn't know some things. She had read some books. She had done her due diligence. And it wasn't a parenting issue as far as not knowing how to do things. It was just a lot to take on at once. And my encouragement is the opposite of just wait and see. If you're bringing children home from hard places, support isn't something that you want to get because you're failing. I love it when adoptive families start involving me in the process as soon as kids come home. Even while they're still in foster care and the adoption isn't final, there's so much work to be done. And I've had several families like that, and I love that. But no matter what point an adoptive family is at, if you have parents that are committed to wanting to make it work. So when I walked into their home those first weeks, it felt like everybody was crying, moving, whining, needing something at once. You could feel the tension in the air. One child needing to be held, another child pushing a sibling, somebody hiding food, somebody else screaming, another child wants the blue cup. One little one climbed on the kitchen table, while another one dumped an entire box of cereal on the floor. And mom's trying to answer a teenager's question, keep the toddler from getting hurt, and remember that she has to think about what's going to happen for dinner that night. If you've lived this, you know what I'm talking about. It's not just busy, it's survival. Almost wasn't the children's behavior. It was mom, because she already loved these children deeply and she was completely committed. But she was absolutely frazzled. And remember, it had only been a week. There was no honeymoon period. Her shoulders stayed tense. She startled at every loud noise because she knew that another crisis was right around the corner. She did not sit down the whole time. She couldn't finish one task before 3 more emergencies appeared. And underneath all of it, I think that she was carrying some guilt, like wondering if she was going to be able to do this. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like, why do I want to ruin our lives? Maybe these children would do better somewhere else. Should we split them up? Maybe I made a terrible mistake. And these thoughts are actually very common. And parents just rarely say them out loud because they're afraid that they're going to be judged. They want to make it work. They're putting their best foot forward. But there were days that she cried before I even got to the front door. Days when she said, I don't know if I can keep doing this. She was so good at staying in contact. When you work with me, you get access during the whole time we're working together to get questions answered and get help right on the spot. And she used it. And when she said she didn't know if she could keep doing it, it wasn't because she didn't love them. It was because she did. She cared a lot. And she did not want to fail. She had that tenacity about her. And she was afraid that she was going to fail them. And she was also afraid that in keeping them together, that they were going to hurt each other and that would be her fault too. And so we had one of the hardest conversations that we've ever had, I'm sure, because things had escalated so much with one of the children that we had to seriously talk about whether everyone in the home was safe. And the aggression towards siblings had become dangerous. And these were young kids. And you may think that a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old cannot be very dangerous, but there are behaviors that require constant supervision. And the parents were exhausted, and the other children in the home were being affected. And for the first time, the possibility of asking for another foster placement was spoken out loud. Can I just say something to the parents that are listening? Having that conversation does not automatically make you a failure or a bad parent. It means that you are carrying something more than one family can carry safely alone. And sometimes it means that you're trying to protect everyone that's involved. The shame around these conversations keeps too many parents isolated. This is not a conversation a lot of parents want to have with their caseworker or even the children's counselor. This is a conversation that is safe to have with me because I understand all the dynamics of what's happening. We did not make the decision lightly. We did not talk about it lightly. We talked about all of these different possibilities. And we stepped back and we asked, okay, what is it going to take to keep this family together safely? That was what the mom really wanted. That was actually what the caregiver, the caseworkers wanted as well, was to keep the kids together. And it changed the whole conversation when we talked about it that way. What can we do to keep this family together safely? So instead of seeing only two options, either keep going exactly like it is or disrupt this placement, we started looking for a different path. And this mom was willing to increase the supervision. These children were not together without an adult nearby. We changed bedroom arrangements, we changed the routines, we changed the transitions, we changed how adults responded, and we didn't just hope that things were going to magically improve with enough love or enough time. We built a different environment, and it was hard at first because nobody wants to run their house this way. But if we want to keep kids safe, no matter what age they are, there are changes that have to happen that require you to be a different kind of parent for kids that come from hard places. And sometimes parents think that structure feels very restrictive. And for traumatized children, I want to tell you that kind of structure feels very safe. Predictability calms their nervous system and has spent years waiting for the next bad thing to happen. And adults following this structure and routine and rules that they've set up is, for some kids, the first time in their lives that adults have followed rules, that adults have not overstepped interpersonal boundaries and have created a safe place for a child to have boundaries as well. One of the first things that we worked on was not actually the kids' behavior. It was helping the parents to get themselves calm, to regulate themselves. And that's something that I teach every single family, because children are going to borrow our nervous system. They borrow our brains, and then we have to help them to build theirs, to build the skills for their brain. If a mom is overwhelmed, and understandably so, the children can feel it. If dad's walking on eggshells, if he's frustrated because he doesn't know what to do to help his wife or his other children, they can feel it, and the whole house can feel it, the other kids, everybody. It doesn't mean that the parents caused the behaviors. We know that they didn't cause the behaviors. These kids came ready, already loaded. But it means that the parents get to become one of the greatest tools for helping these children to heal. So we practiced. We practiced doing a Calm Plus 5 without the kids, and then we practiced with the kids. And we took turns. When one parent was overwhelmed, we tag teamed it and we helped, and we even involved the older kids in knowing what was going on and how to handle this. And they did not have as much responsibility, of course, for doing all of it, but they were willing to help, because a lot of times the most frustrating place for a family to be is to not know what to do. So when you give people things that they can do, everybody feels better. So we used fewer words. We slowed everything down. We started responding instead of reacting. And I'm here to tell you that it was hard, much harder than learning just another parenting technique or trying to be calm or trying to do everything this right way. It was hard because these kids had had so much trauma, and it was like what I've experienced with families that adopt one child or have one child that's neurodivergent, or maybe a couple. This was a whole sibling group that was like their brains were on fire. And it required the parents to notice their own stress before trying to calm everybody else's or anybody else's. So we started creating systems. We used visual schedules, we had morning routines, we had bedtime routines, we had consistent meals and clear expectations, one instruction at a time, predictable consequences. Everything became more simple, and even for the teenagers, we did this. And the children were no longer had to guess what was going to happen next. The teens, of course, had more freedom to be able to move about and do different things, but for the family, we created some routines and some things that they could do. The guesses were gone, and the anxiety, that's the first thing I noticed, is the anxiety lowers immediately. And it's tiring at first when you're developing this and you're putting it into place, because you're not used to it either. But as it becomes routine, it's so much easier. So we do the hard thing now because it's going to get better later. Predictability creates safety. And I remember something beautiful about this family, because they were so teachable. The mom especially, like, she really wanted to make it work. And the parents never said, you know what? We've already raised kids. We know how to do this. We're not going to do that. There were some things that we changed because they said, hey, this isn't working for our family, or I don't think this is going to work with our older kids. And so we tweaked things and we changed things, but they were basically saying, teach us. We know that we need this to be different. And I think that was their greatest strength. Healing was not quick. There was not one magical breakthrough. And sometimes breakthroughs happen with one child at a time. You notice that this child is feeling better. Sometimes it's even your biological children that start like, okay, I feel better. I feel like it's safe. When I'm at school, I know my mom's okay. And there were some setbacks as we went along. There were weeks when it felt like nothing was changing. But I helped the parents to notice the things that were different, because sometimes when you're in it every day, you don't notice the things that are changing, and it's hard you just see the gap of where you're not yet. And so I help you to see what you've gained so far. Like, look at how far these kids have come. Look at who's going to bed on their own. Look at who ate this morning without throwing their cup. And the one sibling that always hit the other child is asking for help instead. A child who used to scream for 45 minutes is now recovering after 15 minutes. And one afternoon, I watched two siblings that were actually laughing together. We were playing a game, and they couldn't even play a game before. They didn't even know how to play. And now they were laughing. And I remember looking at Mom that day, and she smiled. Not one of those exhausted, like, I'm just putting on my brave face smiles, but it was a genuine smile, the kind that says, we're gonna make it. And it almost makes me tear up just thinking about it. Today, when I think about that family, I don't usually think about the cereal on the ground or the screaming extraordinary parents who refused to give up. I remember children who slowly learned that adults could be trusted and that adults would keep their word and that adults were not going to break the rules because it was convenient for them. I remember a family that almost lost hope even after just a week, but they chose to keep doing the right steps. And one of the children still needed close supervision around siblings for quite some time. Healing doesn't erase every challenge. But because the parents were willing to adapt instead of giving up, they were able to keep the siblings together. And that mattered. It mattered to the kids, of course. It mattered to the caseworkers, and it mattered to the parents. And these brothers and sisters had already lost so much. They needed each other. And preserving those relationships while keeping everybody safe became part of their healing story. And that's something that I want every adoptive and foster parent to hear. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal isn't to have children who never struggle. Your goal is to become steady and regulated and trustworthy adult who helps them discover that family can be safe. And my goal for you is to have the confidence as a parent that you know what to do when those struggles come up, that you're not just throwing up your hands and saying, I don't know what to do with you anymore. And even if the decision of what you're going to do is challenging and difficult and counterintuitive to what everybody else might be telling you, that you are confident in doing it because you've seen and felt the difference. And that's what this family did. Not perfectly, certainly not without tears, and not without moments when they wondered if they could keep going. One calm response, one predictable routine, one repaired relationship at a time. And that's the one lesson I hope you take away from their story. That families don't heal because they never face impossible moments. They heal because in those impossible moments, someone helps them find a way to keep moving forward. Listen, I have an adoption parent coaching group. It's more than just a support group. You're going to get coaching on what's going on in your family right now. And if there's more going on than can be handled in a group, I'm going to tell you that. But you're going to get help every single week. The groups last for 6 weeks. We have one starting soon. So get signed up. It's incredible the changes we see that happen in these weekly groups.